It's been close all year between the two drivers at the front of the championship, and it's been a season where momentum has shifted between Verstappen and Hamilton throughout the year. But in the last couple of races, Lewis Hamilton has simply found another level in terms of his individual performances. So is Hamilton now the title favourite? Let's have a look. My name's Andy and this is Behind the Drive. So I made a video just 4 weeks ago suggesting that Verstappen was a clear title favourite. But here we are, 4 weeks and 3 races later, and the gap has closed and Hamilton now looks like he has the momentum going into the final two. This video will look at the factors that may mean that Hamilton is now the title favourite. Woken up the Lion. Following the Qatar Grand Prix, Toto Wolff told Sky that the decision to drop Hamilton to the back of the grid for the sprint qualifying event has woken up the lion within the British driver. An ironic comment given Verstappen tends to be known as the Lion, but it's quite clear that Hamilton's performances in the last two Grand Prix have simply been phenomenal. From his drive from last to 5th in the sprint qualifying race, then the drive from 10th to the win on Sunday, and that incredible qualifying lap in Qatar to put his car on pole by almost half a second. And through all of this, he's been leaning on his 15 years of experience in the sport, and of course, his 7 World Championships. From his drive in Brazil, where he was so confident making moves, but also cautious when navigating the challenging midfield pack. Through that drive in Brazil, on Sunday in particular when attempting to overtake the quicker cars, he quickly learned that overtaking on the start-finish straight wouldn't be the best option, with the Mercedes car ending up being vulnerable to the DRS overtake into turn 4. This is something he learned from a failed overtake on Sergio Perez, so when it came to overtaking Verstappen, Hamilton only ever tried to make the move work into turn 4. And it's these marginal gains which have really helped Hamilton take it up a level in the last couple of races. His decision to go out early in Q3 in Qatar allowed him to run in the final session without the worry of yellow flags hampering his final opportunity to secure a crucial pole position, which at the time seemed important considering the Losail circuit was expected to be a challenge when it comes to overtaking. This decision to leave the garage early turned out to be the right call, given Pierre Gasly ended up coming to a stop after his front wing broke on the curb and damaged his right front tyre. And in the end, it wasn't even like the lap was necessarily needed for Hamilton given his banker lap time, but he eliminated any concerns he may have had about his potential yellow or red flags. In the end, he was never at risk of ending up in the steward's office with Verstappen, Bottas and Sainz, as they all ended up taking a trip there, with 2 of them ending up with penalties. Now of course, Hamilton's pace in Qatar was on another level anyway, but he's still being cautious but assured in these decisions, and when you're in the last few races of a championship with a must-win race ahead of you, that's the level he's able to operate in so comfortably. Come race day in Qatar, he was careful with the 2 runners behind him in Gasly and Alonso starting on the softer compound, which meant he could have so easily been vulnerable to an overtake into turn 1. But he was careful with his car positioning to ensure he was in the lead out of the opening corner, and from then, he basically just checked out. I wouldn't be surprised if he had pace in hand, given how well he was maintaining the 6 to 9 second gap to Verstappen behind throughout the rest of that Grand Prix. Yes, he did lose out to Verstappen in terms of that fastest lap point, but that was really out of his control, and I'm sure he would have gone for it if it wasn't for the virtual safety car at the end. And these 2 performances have been off the back of a really tough position he was in Brazil, where the car was deemed to be in breach of the regulations after 2 screws were loosened during the qualifying session, with his wing just being 0.2mm in excess of the 85 allowed. It was a tough blow to Hamilton's chances, with a 5-place grid penalty already coming for Sunday after taking a new combustion engine. However, those are the rules, and the car was in breach of the technical regulations, and as such a disqualification was inevitable. But from that point, the rhetoric from the Mercedes team and driver was that they would do their talking on the track, and that's exactly what they've done. With these 2 excellent races, as well as having that engine which has only been used once in Brazil, which could well be crucial when it comes to the final 2 circuits, where straight line speed is going to be essential. So I think that Toto Wolff's completely right when he says that the decision from the FIA to disqualify Hamilton has woken up the lion. He's been in impeccable form in the last couple of events, and yes, his car has been on top, but his performances throughout the rest of the year have been doubtful with some uncharacteristic mistakes, including the trip to the gravel in Imola, his brake magic button press in Azerbaijan, and simply being off the pace in Monaco. It seems like this title run-in has brought the best out of Lewis Hamilton in these closing stages, but it isn't just the driver, as the Mercedes car has been unbelievably fast going into these closing stages as well. But before we have a look at the pace of that car, I want to take a moment to ask you to subscribe to Behind the Drive. We're on our way to 25,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so if you haven't already done so, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. Thanks. A car pace advantage. It seemed like the Red Bull had taken another leap in performance thinking back to the race in the USA and Mexico. The result in the USA in particular was a track that's traditionally been so strong for the Mercedes team, but come the races in Brazil and Qatar, the Mercedes team seemed to be unbeatable. With a significant pace advantage over Red Bull in Brazil and a superior car all round in the high-speed corners at the Losail circuit. And the Mercedes has been so fast in the last two races that the Red Bull team have queried and gone on a media campaign releasing images of the Mercedes rear wing, claiming that the underside of the Mercedes wing flexes at high loads, which has been creating scratches or score marks. In Qatar, the Mercedes team claimed to be using the same wing that they had in Brazil, and certainly just from looking at it, that seemed to be the case. But the FIA did introduce new load tests specifically to look at that element of the wing. These tests were not regulatory, so even if some flexing was to have been found within the car, it wouldn't have been in breach of regulations. But according to Red Bull, they believe this new test has slowed them down, as the pace advantage hasn't been so significant. But just by looking at the Mercedes car, it was seen in Turkey that when the Mercedes reaches a certain speed, the whole car drops, stalling the diffuser and reducing their drag. This is something that they can't replicate on all tracks. They couldn't make it work in Austin, for example, after the high-speed corners and the undulation of the circuit meant they would lose too much downforce. But it was particularly productive in Brazil. There was the long high-speed start-finish straight, followed by another long run into turn 4. So from looking at it, it seems like this is a key factor that's influenced the team's high speed, coupled with the brand new combustion engine in the back of Hamilton's Mercedes in Brazil. And with all the attention on rear wings, nobody's seen anything on the cameras that's been that incriminating. In terms of the pace advantage, Mark Hughes wrote an article for the race and has done an excellent analysis of the straight line speed of the Red Bulls and the Mercedes cars. He details the actual speed differentials between Hamilton and Verstappen in Brazil and highlights that on average the speed difference was only about 5 km per hour, with the biggest difference being 7.7 km an hour on their fastest speed trap speeds. In Qatar, that speed differential did reduce, but only by 0.7 km per hour according to Hughes. Not a significant amount as Christian Horner was trying to make out with the new load tests. And in Hughes' article, he determines the key factor dictating the different pace advantage of the Red Bull and Mercedes to be the different types of circuit, and the fact that the Mercedes performs better at the front limited tracks, and as such they did well in Brazil and Qatar, rather than the USA and Mexico. This car has not just been good for Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas has also upped his performances in the second half of the season. I've detailed his strong performances in another video, and there are still some of his disappointing results. His poor start in Qatar was particularly evident, but he did at least start a recovery drive rather than ending up with an anonymous race in the midfield. But there's no doubt that his second half of the season has been an improvement for the Finnish driver when compared to the first half of the season, and this could well be crucial when it comes down to Hamilton's title chances in these last two races, and Mercedes' title hopes for the Constructors' Championship. Toto Wolff said after the Qatar Grand Prix that the Mercedes Challenger is in the best place it's been all season, and it really does look like it's come back towards them in these closing stages. And the interesting point here is the fact that they've not put any further developments on that car since the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Evidently, they've been learning how the car works and getting it into its setup sweet spot, and it's been working, as the team go into the final two races with what looks like the best car. Wolff also commented on the fact that the team have started to focus more on themselves, avoiding being dragged into the accusatory nature of the Red Bull leadership, and making sure that they deliver in these last two rounds. But with such fine margins in the championship, it's certainly all to play for in these last races. What do you make of Hamilton's title hopes? Is title number 8 on the way? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.